fluorescent lights buzzed above me as I mindlessly scanned items at Quick Stop Mart. Tuesday afternoon shifts were always the slowest. At 24, being a cashier wasn't where I'd planned to be, but Mom's medical bills had a way of derailing dreams. My name tag read, Olivia, just another girl with postponed college plans and fading ambitions. 6 hours into my shift, my feet ached and my smile had grown mechanical. The electronic door chime pulled me from my daze. A man in an impeccable charcoal suit entered, clearly out of place in our neighborhood store. His confident stride and Italian leather shoes screamed wealth as he moved directly to the refrigerated section. I watched him curiously. Most of our customers were truckers or locals, not businessmen who looked like they belonged on Wall Street. He selected a water bottle and approached my register, still engrossed in a phone call. "Yes, the 15% return is guaranteed," he said into his phone. "We close Friday. The Richardson portfolio alone is worth twice that." When he finished his call, I rang up his purchase. "That'll be $249, sir." He handed me a sleek black credit card with a practiced smile that crinkled the corners of his dark brown eyes. They seemed strangely familiar. "Could I get a receipt, please?" he asked, checking his Rolex. I printed it and handed it over. He pulled a silver pen from his breast pocket and signed the merchant copy. "Force of habit," he explained. 15 years in business and I still track every expense." He slid the signed receipt back. I glanced down automatically, ready to file it away. That's when I saw it, the signature. My hand froze midair. The distinctive cursive with that unusual loop on the J and sharp cross on the T was unmistakable. "James Christopher Thompson," I whispered, reading the name aloud. The man paused, halfway to the door. "Yes?" My eyes burned with sudden tears. "That's my father's signature," I said, my voice barely audible. He turned fully, confusion morphing into shock. "Excuse me?" I held up the receipt with trembling fingers. "This signature, it's identical to my father's, James Thompson." The water bottle slipped from his grasp, hitting the floor with a dull thud. "What did you say your name was?" he asked, his composed demeanor cracking. "I didn't," I replied. "It's Olivia Thompson." He stared at me, his face draining of color. His wallet fell from his hand, spilling business cards across the floor. "Impossible," he whispered. 15 years of questions rushed through my mind. 15 years since Dad had left for a business trip and never returned. 15 years of Mom insisting he must have died, because the James Thompson she married would never abandon his family. "My father disappeared 15 years ago," I said. "April 17th, 2009. He was on his way to Chicago for a business meeting." "The plane crash," he murmured, steadying himself against the counter. "What plane crash?" I demanded. "They never found his body. There was no trace." His eyes, identical to mine, searched my face with growing recognition. "Oh my God. Sarah's daughter." The name of my mother on this stranger's lips hit me like a physical blow. "How do you know my mother's name?" But I already knew. The same height, same eyes, same way of standing. 15 years older, but undeniably the man from the photographs on our mantle. "I'm James Thompson," he said quietly. "And I think I might be your father." "My father is dead," I said automatically. "No, Olivia. I'm very much alive." His voice broke. "And I never thought I'd see you again." In that moment, I wasn't 24, but 9 years old again, waiting by the window for a father who never came home. "You left us," I said, anger bubbling through shock. "You just disappeared." "No," he shook his head vehemently. "I would never have left you and your mother willingly. Never." The door chimed as another customer entered, but neither of us moved. "Then what happened?" I demanded, tears flowing freely. "Where were you when Mom worked herself sick?" Where were you when she was diagnosed with cancer? Where were you when I had to drop out of college? He flinched with each question. Olivia, please. I need to explain. It's complicated, but I never stop thinking about you. Complicated? I laughed bitterly. What's complicated about abandoning your family? I didn't abandon you, he insisted, lowering his voice. I was protecting you, both of you. From what? His eyes darted around nervously. Not here. When does your shift end? We need to talk somewhere private. The rational part of me screamed this was insane, but the child who never stopped waiting for her father silenced that voice. I'm done at 8, I said. Relief washed over his face. I'll wait. There's a diner across the street? I nodded. As he collected his fallen wallet, our eyes met again. I saw something unexpected. Fear. Olivia, he said softly, don't tell anyone about this yet. It could be dangerous. Before I could ask what he meant, he was gone. I stood frozen, the signed receipt still in my hand, proof I hadn't imagined everything. The next 3 hours passed in a fog. I rang up customers mechanically, my mind racing with questions. Was he really my father? If so, where had he been? What did he mean by dangerous? And most importantly, what would I tell Mom? At 8, I clocked out, heart pounding. Through the windows, I saw him waiting in a black Audi. He hadn't fled. Part of me had expected him to. You okay, Liv? My manager, Dave, asked with concern. You look like you've seen a ghost. I almost laughed at how accurate that was. Just tired. Each step toward the diner felt momentous, like walking toward a revelation that would forever divide my life into before and after. He was already seated when I arrived, 2 coffees waiting. He'd removed his suit jacket and loosened his tie, looking slightly less like the powerful businessman and more like the father I remembered. You came, he said, relief evident in his voice. I almost didn't, I admitted, sliding into the booth across from him. An awkward silence stretched between us. I don't even know what to call you, I finally said. Dad seems wrong. James feels worse. Pain flashed across his face. Call me whatever feels right. I nodded, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. Start talking. Where have you been for 15 years? He took a deep breath. It started with an investment fund I was managing. I discovered my partners were laundering money for dangerous people. When I threatened to report them, they made it clear you and your mother would pay the price. I listened, skepticism warring with desperate need to believe him. The plane crash was my way out, he continued. I was listed on the manifest but never boarded. In the confusion, I was presumed dead. My partners thought I was gone, and you and your mother would be safe. So you faked your own death? I couldn't hide my accusation. Do you have any idea what that did to us? I thought you'd be safer believing I was dead than knowing the truth, he said quietly, and I arranged for life insurance to provide for you both. We never got any insurance, I said flatly. Mom said the company wouldn't pay without a body. Surprise, then anger crossed his face. That's impossible. I had a $5 million policy, ironclad even in case of disappearance. Well, we never saw a penny. Mom took 2 extra jobs. We almost lost the house. He closed his eyes, distressed. Someone intercepted the money. It had to be them. Who is them? I demanded. The men I was running from. The consortium. Financial criminals with connections high enough to make problems disappear. People who crossed them disappeared too. You've been hiding for 15 years? Under a new identity? Not stolen. Created. I've been careful, building a new life inch by inch. I thought I'd covered my tracks completely. Until you walked into my convenience store, I said. A sad smile touched his lips. The universe has a strange sense of humor. Why didn't you contact us once you were safe? He removed a worn photograph from his wallet. Mom, Dad, and me at the beach, summer 2008. Our last vacation. I tried. 3 years after I disappeared, I hired a private investigator. He reported you'd moved with no forwarding address, and your mother had remarried. I stared at him. Mom never remarried. The investigator showed me wedding photos. Sarah Thompson becoming Sarah Caldwell. Memory clicked. Mom's friend Janet's wedding. Mom was maid of honor. I was a junior bridesmaid. He looked stunned. He lied to me. All these years. Why would an investigator lie? He was compromised, my father said grimly. The consortium must have gotten to him. It sounded paranoid, yet the anguish in his eyes seemed genuine. I made another attempt 5 years ago, he continued. I set up a trust fund in your name at Garfield University, your dream school. I froze. How did you know that was my dream school? You talked about it constantly when you were 9. I hoped you'd still want to go there. I did, I whispered. I was accepted, but couldn't afford it. Confusion crossed his face. The trust would have covered everything. 4 years, fully paid. I never received anything about a trust fund. He ran his hand through his hair. They've been one step ahead the entire time, blocking every attempt I made to help you both. This consortium must be powerful to intercept mail, insurance payouts, and university trusts, I said skeptically. More powerful than you can imagine. The man who leads them is now a senator. I digested this information, struggling to align it with my reality of picking up extra shifts to cover Mom's medications. Why now? I asked. After 15 years, why risk coming back? I finally have what I need to expose them. Evidence of their operations, offshore accounts, bribery. Next week, I'm meeting with federal prosecutors. Once their case is built, it's over. So you're still in danger, I realized. He nodded grimly. Until the evidence is secure. That's why you can't tell anyone you've seen me, especially your mother. Mom deserves to know you're alive. Sarah is safer not knowing. Please, Olivia, just a few more days. I studied the man across from me. Half stranger, half the father who had taught me to ride a bike. I need proof. This sounds like a movie plot. He reached for his phone, pulled up an encrypted file system, and turned the screen toward me. Account statements, transfer records, surveillance photos. I scanned through documents showing millions moving between shell companies. Names I recognized from news headlines. My father's signature on original documents, then forged versions. They erased me and stole everything I left for you, he said softly. But I built it all back, planning for this moment. To make it right. The waitress refilled our cups, eyeing us curiously. I have a meeting with federal agents tomorrow night, he continued once she left. After that, we'll be under protection until the case goes to trial. We, I asked. Me, you, your mother, if you want. He hesitated. I know I have no right to reappear in your lives. If you want me to disappear again after the case is closed, I will. The sincerity in his voice made my throat tighten. Mom never stopped loving you. She kept your wedding photo by her bed through everything. The double shifts, the chemo treatments, everything. Tears filled his eyes. How is she now? In remission, working part-time at the library, still in our old house though it's falling apart. He nodded, determination crossing his face. Tomorrow night, everything changes. The trust funds will be released. The life insurance with 15 years interest. The investment portfolio I built in your names. How much? I whispered. Enough that neither of you will ever have to worry again. Enough for your college, your mother's medical bills, everything. Hope and suspicion battled within me. This seems too fantastic to believe. I know. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. I don't expect forgiveness, Olivia, but please, give me the chance to make things right. Our eyes met. Same shape, same color. I saw reflected in his the same pain I'd carried for 15 years. I need to think, I said finally. He nodded, writing an address on a napkin. I'm staying here. If you decide to trust me, come tomorrow at 7. If not, his voice faltered. I'll understand. As we stood to leave, a man in a dark coat entered the diner, scanning the room. My father tensed immediately. Go out the back, he whispered urgently. Don't look back, don't come to your apartment. Go somewhere public until tomorrow. Why? Who is that? Someone who shouldn't know I'm here. He pressed a key card into my palm. Hotel Westbrook, room 7112. Go there, now. Before I could respond, he was moving toward the man, intercepting him with a loud greeting about market projections, steering him away from me. I slipped out the back door, heart pounding, clutching the key card and wondering if I'd just reconnected with my long-lost father, or been pulled into something far more dangerous than I could imagine. As I hurried down the street, a black SUV pulled alongside me. The window lowered to reveal a woman with sharp eyes and a government ID. Olivia Thompson? I'm Agent Reeves, FBI. We need to talk about your father. My world tilted again. Whatever truth awaited, I knew my life would never be the same. The black SUV cut through downtown streets as Agent Reeves sat silently beside me. Where are we going? I finally asked. Secure location, she replied. We've been monitoring your father for years. At a nondescript office building, she led me through security checkpoints to a conference room with 3 people waiting. Olivia, the older woman said. I'm Director Marshall. Your father has been our informant for 15 years, Marshall explained. What you know as the consortium we call the Montrose Group, financial criminals who've infiltrated politics and law enforcement. But he told me he just disappeared, I protested. He went into hiding, yes, but as our informant, gathering evidence from inside their operation. If he worked for you, why couldn't he contact us? Tell us he was alive? For your protection? Marshall said. The Montrose Group eliminates threats, and their families. What about the insurance money? The trust fund? He tried to provide for us. Marshall's expression tightened. Our agents intercepted those attempts. Any unexpected windfall would have raised suspicion. You kept that money from us? Anger flared. My mother worked until she got sick. I dropped out of college. It kept you alive, Marshall said firmly. The Montrose Group was watching, waiting for any sign James was still alive. Why tell me now? Tomorrow night, we raid 13 locations across 3 countries. We arrest 37 members, including Senator Landry, their leader. I recognized the name, the charismatic politician eyeing the presidency. Your meeting with your father accelerated our timeline, Marshall continued. His cover may be compromised. Is he in danger? We've moved him to a secure location, Agent Reeves said. He's safe. What about my mother? A team is bringing her in now, Marshall assured me. She'll be here within the hour. Panic surged through me. She has health issues. We're aware of her medical history, the older male agent interjected. All medications will be provided. She doesn't know about Dad. No, Marshall confirmed. We thought you might want to be present when she's told. A knock interrupted us. After a brief exchange at the door, Reeves turned back with a grim expression. Director Sarah Thompson's residence is under surveillance. Protection team is taking alternate routes. Is my mother in danger? I demanded, rising. Precautionary measures, Marshall said. But the tension in the room told me otherwise. Another agent's phone buzzed. Director, primary secure location compromised. Thompson is being moved. My father? I asked, panic rising. A security breach, Marshall said calmly. Nothing we weren't prepared for. The room erupted into activity. I caught fragments. Asset in transit. Possible mole. Emergency protocols. The Montrose group has made a move against your father, Marshall explained. Simultaneously, they're watching your mother's house. So your operation is failing, I said bitterly. On the contrary, she replied with a thin smile. They've shown their hand. Now we spring the trap. You used him as bait, I realized. He volunteered. Marshall said simply. For 15 years, he's worked toward this moment. The door burst open. An injured agent rushed in. Director, Site Bravo hit. Thompson secure, but we have casualties. How many? Marshall asked, her composure slipping. 2 of ours down, 3 hostiles neutralized. She nodded grimly. We're bringing James here, consolidating our assets. The next hour passed in a blur. Agent Reeves stayed with me in a secure room, her hand never far from her weapon. Is this what my father's life has been like? I asked. Always looking over his shoulder? Your father built a legitimate fortune while gathering evidence against the people who threatened everything he loved. A knock at the door revealed my mother, escorted by agents, still wearing her library name tag. Olivia, what's happening? She rushed to embrace me. Before I could answer, the door opened again. There stood my father, disheveled but alive. Mom froze, color draining from her face. James, she whispered. Hello, Sarah, he said softly. She swayed and I moved to support her. As my father rushed forward to help, 15 years of separation collapsed in an instant. You're alive, Mom kept saying, touching Dad's face. All this time. Sarah, if I could have found any other way. Not yet, she whispered, looking at the agents. Can we have privacy? Director Marshall nodded. But first, there's a situation. We need to move you to a more secure facility. Dad kept Mom's hand in his. I'll explain everything, but right now, you're both in danger. What have you done, James? Mom asked. What I had to, he said simply. To keep you safe. Mom's shock hardened into determination, the same expression she'd worn through cancer treatments. When this is over, I expect the complete truth, she told Marshall. Helicopter extraction in 10 minutes, Marshall ordered. My father turned to her. Any word on Landry? Still at his estate, no unusual activity. He knows, my father insisted. He's waiting. He'll have contingencies. That's why we're moving your family to a black site. No one outside this room knows the location. As we prepared to leave, my father pulled me aside. Olivia, I need you to understand why I stayed away. I understand you thought you were protecting us, but I don't know if I can forgive the years we lost. Pain crossed his features. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want to be part of your lives again. We moved to the rooftop where a helicopter waited, rotors spinning. The first explosion came from across the street. The second took out the helicopter in a fireball. Down! Marshall shouted. Hostile fire! Agents surrounded us as gunfire erupted. My father pulled Mom and me behind a ventilation unit, covering us with his body. We need to get inside, he yelled to Marshall. Another explosion rocked the building. Smoke poured from the access door. They've breached the building, Reeves shouted. Stairwell compromised. Fire escape north side. Move, Marshall ordered. We scrambled across the rooftop, keeping low. Agent Reeves went down with a shoulder wound. Go, she ordered. I'll cover you. My father guided us to the fire escape. 3 floors down, he stopped abruptly. Listen, he whispered. I heard footsteps coming up from below. Back up, he said grimly. We climbed to the previous floor. My father broke a window, helping us into an empty office space. Stay low, he instructed. We need another way down. Service elevator, Mom said suddenly. I worked in this building 3 years ago. My father produced a key card, and we hurried to the service elevator. "Where are the agents?" I asked as we entered. "Fighting to give us time," he said grimly. The elevator descended to the parking level. As we rounded a concrete pillar, headlights blazed to life. A black SUV idled nearby. "Thompson," a voice called. "It's Reeves. Director sent me ahead." "Authentication code?" my father demanded, weapon ready. "Bluebird September," Reeves replied, stepping forward with a bloodied shoulder. We started toward the SUV when Mom grabbed Dad's arm. "Wait, that's not right." For one frozen moment, nobody moved. Then Reeves's expression hardened, and she raised her gun. "Smart woman," she said coldly. My father shoved us back as Reeves fired. He returned fire while more vehicles screeched into the garage, armed men emerging. "Run!" my father shouted, blood soaking his shirt from a wound. "Not without you," Mom insisted, pulling him with us as we retreated. We reached an emergency exit, my father shouldering it open despite the alarm. We emerged into an alley, sirens wailing in the distance. Dad stumbled, pressing his gun into Mom's hand. 2 blocks north, there's a diner, Molly's. Ask for the corner booth. Say you're friends of Eddie. "We're not leaving you," I said fiercely. The door behind us burst open. Without hesitation, Mom fired twice, forcing our pursuers back. "James Christopher Thompson," she said with steel in her voice. "I did not survive 15 years without you just to lose you now. Move." Something changed in my father's expression. Pride, love, determination. He straightened despite his wound. "Yes, ma'am," he said, and we continued together, a family reunited against all odds.